In this video, we are talking all about the dragon, the missing dragon, Fantasmic. When's it coming back? What's going on with this dragon? The show's returning in May of 2024, but with no dragon. So are they rebuilding it? Are they not? We're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about this drone show, this pretty cool looking drone show over at Disneyland Paris. We got some concept art, some footage, some like test footage. And we're also going to talk about Disney's Wish coming to World of Color. We got a special guest in the house. Marty is back on this episode. Yes, on this episode of OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. I have a fantastic panel with me today. We're talking Fantasmic Dragon. We're talking Wish coming to World of Color. We're also talking about drone shows coming to Disneyland Paris. But before we start, I'm going to start off with my fantastic panel. Start off with the Italiano. George, welcome back on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me on. It's always a good time to be on, talking some Disney, talking some theme parks, some entertainment news. It's always great. But if anyone wants to follow me out there on social media, you could do so. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me now on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base in Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There you go. You're in. And down below, it's always good having Marty back on the show. Marty, welcome back, brother.
Hey, what's going on, boys?
Not much. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you'll find me on X at Marty084.
Perfect.
That's about it.
There you go.
It's the only place I'm hanging around.
Check him out on Twitter. I will, of course, link it in the description below. All right, so let's talk a little Fantasmic here. This is interesting. So obviously we all know what happened with the dragon, the last dragon, right? It went up in flames, literally went up in flames. So there was a lot of talk about, what's going to happen. We got word recently that the show will premiere. It will come back in May of 2024, but without a dragon. So they're going to kind of rework the show to sort of have no dragon. Okay, that's fine. But will they rebuild it? That's the big question. That's the $1 million kind of question that fans are asking. Marty, I'll start with you. What do you think on this? You think the dragon's coming back, not coming back? They're going to rebuild it. Where do you stand with this, sir?
Yeah, I do think it's coming back, and I know people working on it.
That's
so a little backstory on some of this too. A lot of people, some time has passed. I can't recall exactly how many months it's been, but a lot of people think, oh, just because we don't have a dragon now and it's been a good amount of time, we're not getting a dragon. There's a lot of stuff that went into this as far as they had to do an investigation for multiple reasons. One, first of all, there's insurance on the line, and they have to make sure that there was, how much negligence was there? Was it not being maintained? What went wrong with it? And from what I've been told, it was a lot. It had something to do with the hydraulic system, and whether or not it was hydraulic fluid that caught fire or the hydraulics gave way, allowing the flame to hit a certain area it wasn't supposed to. That much I don't really know. That's deep in the investigation. That's pretty high up that would know that kind of thing. I also don't know whether or not insurance was approved for it. That would be something that would be very, very high up and probably not even shared with Imagineers and other things. That'd be more top financial decisions. But they also needed to know what caused it, because when they go to put together a team to rebuild Murphy, they need to not have the people that were in charge of the part that failed be a part of the new team. So they had to sit there and do their due diligence. They had to sit there and look at, what exactly happened, not just for insurance reasons, but for going forward, not to punish somebody necessarily, but you just can't have anyone that was involved with the failing parts a part of the new assembly.
Of course. Yeah.
So
that makes total sense. Absolutely.
So all that takes some time. It takes like maybe 6 months, something like that. And they do have a team together. They are working on a new dragon. And funny enough, most people watching probably know why the dragon was called Murphy. You know, it was a derivative off of Murphy's Law. Anything that could go wrong with this thing was going to go wrong all the way to the end. Like,
it was almost poetic, wasn't it?
You could not have picked a better name for its final destination, right?
It's absolutely. What are your thoughts, George, on the dragon possibly coming back? Or, well, Marty says it is coming back. What are your thoughts on that?
So right off the bat, after the incident happened, I thought, okay, Disney is probably, as it is, falling to cinders, Disney's probably already saying in their mind, okay, how can we redo this, make it better, and bring the dragon back? Maybe not necessarily Murphy, because they end up tying that name to this dragon. It's like, okay, do we want the same notion to happen again? Probably not. But because the dragon is such an iconic piece of Fantasmic, and everybody looks forward to seeing that grand finale, especially at Disneyland, compared to the one that we have down here at Florida, or as I like to call it, the oversized Muppet, compared to the dragon at Disneyland. But I just
basically,
but it's a huge, piece of machinery. It's well equipped, but yet everything has to go, accordingly, in order for it to work. And as Marty had mentioned, there's so much into it in the background, so to speak, than to just say, okay, this one burnt on, go order another one. It'll be shipped by Amazon by tomorrow, and we'll install it. And it's like, there's so much more that goes into that, as Marty had mentioned, with insurance, investigation, proper management, building a team, getting the schematics correctly. So everything between like the pumps, the pipes, the hydraulic fluid, everything goes accordingly. So this doesn't happen again. So obviously there's, it's going to be, time, not knowing how long it's going to take, but just the fact of knowing that we are getting a dragon back. Because I've actually heard from a few sources of my own that, it is confirmed, non-confirmed, that the dragon is coming back. But I am just glad in general that Fantasmic itself is coming back. They need to have that back in Disneyland, especially coming towards the summer months for the summer season. Because, I mean, the show is very loved, very popular, and Disneyland just needs to have that little splice of magic back at night.
Yeah. Now, what I'm curious about is, okay, like Marty said, okay, it's coming back. Have you heard anything, Marty, about, because the fire effect seems to be the sticking point, so to speak, with this whole thing. Do you think that, or have you heard, or even if you just want to speculate on that fire effect, do you think they would try to duplicate that fire effect and just make it work properly this time? Or do you think they'll go with something different to make it appear maybe like real fire, but it isn't? Or where do you kind of stand with that?
So I have not heard anything about that, but man, feeling that heat from the fire when it blows, that is part of the experience of doing that. I would hate to see them try to run some kind of projection screen or something like that creates that, because I mean, that's the that's the extra dimension. That's the fourth dimension, is you can feel the heat when it goes, and when they're doing that stuff. I mean, it's like being on the Indiana Jones ride, and you go through, and the fires go in and stuff. You can feel that, and it just I always feel like that adds a little bit something to the whole experience.
Absolutely.
I'd hate to see them try to get rid of that part. I think something that's also funny is that I heard was maybe to get ahead of the problematic Murphy name for that last dragon.
No pun intended.
Yeah, is they are referring to this build and this dragon as Gamora.
Oh,
because they're bringing it back from the dead.
Nice.
And that is what they are naming internally. That's what they're naming this dragon that they're working on.
That's a great name. That's actually perfect. Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. Like, I think that so a lot of fans, and understandably so, a lot of fans complain about these dining packages and stuff. It creates a lot of even logistical issues with the seating and what have you, right? In a weird way, in a weird kind of ironic way, and I could be wrong on this. This is kind of like OG speculating right now, but like I feel like because this show has become so monetized over the years, for better or worse, I feel like it's incentivized Disney to sort of do the right thing with the dragon. Like if they weren't making the money off these dining packages and all that good stuff, would they bother building it again? I'm not so sure. And yeah, look, they should absolutely, but Disney, sometimes their decisions are very questionable. And if it wasn't so heavily monetized with these dining packages and what have you, they might have said, "Hey, do we really need the dragon?" And the fact that we're getting it back, I think they realize it helps them with their money. It helps them with these dining things. So, I mean, that if there's any kind of silver lining with these expensive packages, I think that would be it. What do you think, George?
Oh yeah, any any kind of obstacle that Disney can have, to kind of fix their issue, just to bring in more money. And Fantasmic was one of those selections that, I mean, you would have this certain areas that were just for standby, and then you'd have this whole slew full of space for the dining package, and it's like, wow, of all those people are filling that up for how much each family had paid for that package. I mean, just for one night, just to watch Fantasmic from a great viewpoint, it's like they make bank, and Disney's a corporate company, so they're gonna take as many opportunities as they can to just shell out that green.
Yeah.
And honestly, when it comes to those dining packages for Fantasmic specifically, it's I hate upsales and stuff like that. I just like more money out of my pocket. But I don't think that they're very unfairly priced. I mean, you're getting the meal, so you take that part out of it. You're getting a prime seat. If you're a family that's there for one day and you want a good view, and you don't have to worry about anything else, I think it's a solid deal when you're getting the meal included with it and stuff like that. But
Sure.
but yeah, they they love selling those dining plans. So, I mean, look at that as payment plans into Gamora.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and then they get the bump twice now, because they're going to get obviously the bump in May when it comes back, but then they'll get another bump when the dragon comes back in a year after that or whatever it is. So it's pretty smart. I'm very curious though, the replacement effects that they're going to go with for the dragon in the meantime. Very curious how they kind of handle that. Maybe it'll just be Maleficent, without getting into her dragon form, she kind of rises up or something like. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna mention that, OG. I don't know how it is at Disneyland. I don't know if you guys ever had. They called that like the B mode, so to speak, which I've experienced it several times at Walt Disney World, because every time I've been out to Disneyland, the dragon always worked. Don't ask me how an oversized puppet can't work at Walt Disney World. Don't ask me, but there was a few times when I went to Fantasmic at Walt Disney World, they had Maleficent's B mode, which was Maleficent herself, where the rock work would raise on the platform that she was standing on, or as I should say, he is standing on, because for a lot of people that don't know, they actually have a male performer in Maleficent, because the costume is so thick and heavy that it's too big and bulky for actually a female structure. So they actually have a male dressed as Maleficent at the end. Just a fun fact.
That's interesting.
OG, for the life of me, I can't. We have a B mode. I can't for the life of me remember what it is. But because of Murphy itself going down all the time, I remember people all the time tweeting out, oh, Fantasmic's in B mode today, because it did go down so often. So we do have some kind of B mode, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, Disney World's B mode was just Maleficent, where they still have the same spiel, the same soundtrack that's running. The only difference is that rather than Maleficent be the dragon, it's Maleficent as her fairy form.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Wow.
But I think it is interesting to know, like, as far as like fixing the dragon and not having this happen again, because over at Walt Disney World, Maleficent, the steampunk type of parade float at Magic Kingdom, Maleficent's head engulfed into flames by using sort of that same fire effect. So whatever Disney is doing, they have to change it up, because this happened now on both coasts with Maleficent as the dragon, and it caused uh, damage to the parade float and the dragon in Fantasmic. And thank God at both instances nobody got hurt. But
Yes.
Disney is going to be writing a fine liability line if they don't get that fixed, because you don't
There,
want, God forbid, something to happen
I
to
mean,
any of the performers.
with this last one, we had cast members go directly to the hospital for smoke inhalation. There were a couple that they took right to the hospital because they were underneath the dragon in that area.
Wow.
That underneath that they hold, because like that all caught fire too, and that all those electronics down there, they had to be redone. The Mickey was taken down right away. The character, the CM in Mickey's outfit, he was taken to the hospital. I was
Wow.
told as well. So
Was
they
that
were
was
everyone
that
was
from
okay.
yeah, was that from the smoke inhalation, or was that just uh uh
I would,
as
yeah,
part of, like, just to be on the safe side, so there is no issues? It's like you have to go no matter what, even though you may
yeah,
say you feel fine. We just want you to get checked out.
yeah. I don't know how much of it was he was like the CM was hurt or not, but or if they were just checking him out. But yeah, there were a couple that they took in uh, uh, with reports of smoke inhalation. I mean, that
Wow.
that that got engulfed very fast, and
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
and these guys, they're not firefighters. They're not used to it. Like, you start inhaling some of that right there, it's like being on top of a campfire. All it takes is one breath of that, and it can mess you up.
Oh yeah,
So
and you mentioned it went up pretty fast. It did. It almost reminded me like when you see like the blimps that catch fire,
yeah,
because they have
yeah,
the steel structure, and then they have like that kind of thin kind of balloon on the outside, and the balloon just goes up like this, and it's like gone in a blink of an eye. It was the same thing with the dragon. It was like just the skin just melted away like almost immediately, and it was just down to like the metal.
it reminded
Um,
me of like Notre Dame when it went. Like I remember watching it, and a commenter saying on the news, going like, "It's basically a pizza oven. It's wood inside of stone."
yeah,
So, and so
sure.
the stone didn't go up, but the inside the whole thing just went up like crazy, because it's just all it's once it caught, it's all flammable material.
Yeah, that's wild. Now, before we move on to our next topic, I want to ask you, gentlemen. This is pure speculation town right now. I'll start with you, George, because you're more of the Disney World guy, right?
Mm.
Disney loves to build two of everything. Like we see it all the time with clones, right? Because it's cheaper. When you do the R&D, you get the materials. It's cheaper to build two than one. Is it possible now that they're going back and building another dragon that they might opt to build two and give Disney World a version of this?
One can only hope, brother. I really wish, that would be
Hmm.
the notion, because if they have to put out the money to make one, actually, me personally, I'll even take it a step further. I'd say, why not make three? So that way they could just have like a spare sitting like somewhere in like in a warehouse, that just in case of anything. It's like, okay, bring out Gamora and
There you
times
go. Bring them
two.
out.
It's like,
That's
but that would be really great, because
yeah.
I still prefer Fantasmic at Disneyland. I love how the show becomes a part of the land, and the land becomes part of the show. It's so intertwined to let the theme park come alive at night, where everything that you see of your surroundings in the daytime just becomes something of a brand new spectacle at night. And with Walt Disney World, you're actually walking to an amphitheater, so you're saying, okay, I'm walking to this place to go see this show. I'm sitting down to see this show, which I mean is cool. It fits in well with Hollywood studios, but But they have so much room over at the amphitheater. They have this gigantic mountain. They have all this space, and
Yeah.
yet again, they just don't get creative enough with it. And I think it would be really cool that if they can maybe not have the exact format of how they bring the dragon out of Disneyland, but at least maybe have like the dragon like wrapping around the mountain, maybe having its claws like kind of clenched on and have the head pop up at the top peak of the mountain. I think would
That'd be
be
cool.
kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I would say that's definitely not a far fetched idea at all if they were to
Yeah.
make two, especially with
Okay.
Iger back on, because you know how he is. He's a twofer kind of guy.
I know. We're not building one, we're building two. What do you think, Marty? Is any chance that they might do another one for Disney World?
I mean, it would make sense. I would think that they would. They're definitely looking at it if if it's something that they're considering. I think I feel like Disney is trying to cut money off on a lot of things that they should be going more into. I think like we saw this with Toontown. I mean, it's a year later and it's still not fixed. We're fixing it piece by piece again,
Right.
like that. And I'd like to see them go all in on something. I'll tell you what. I'll have a more definitive opinion when they announce what Avatar experience is.
Yeah, that's interesting. That whole Avatar experience.
If it's a smaller if Avatar is going to be a smaller project, they're only making one dragon.
Right. And I told George, I said to him, I don't remember if it was on a video or on the phone. I don't remember, but I told him that if we don't get, if this isn't like something significant, right? I think I'm done with Daddy Josh. Like I will officially have reached my threshold where I'm frustrated. Like he's not greenlighting anything of any substance, you know?
And I know it's a little bit off topic now that we're discussing this and it wasn't on the agenda, but
Yeah.
I mean, I get your point, both of your points. Like every single time this comes up and we discuss it and we talk about Iger wouldn't have teased it on an earnings call,
Right.
if it was just going to be something small. But I look at that exact call and I sit there and I say, okay, that would have been a bad decision if he was teasing something that wasn't going to be big. But I also think it's equally a bad decision to tease something that you don't address for 10 more months. And we're living that right now.
Right, right.
So I'm like, that was a bad decision. So maybe the other one was too.
It's possible.
I hope that comment that Iger did make, it doesn't fall in the same threshold as the comment that he made with the live action Little Mermaid. Like putting like all your eggs in one basket to say, okay, this is going to be like this film is going to be the whole company moving forward. Like that was just a very bad
he
choice
said
of words,
like almost verbatim. He says something to the effect of, "You'll see the power of the Disney brand when the Little Mermaid comes out." And I told George, I'm like, that's the worst thing you can do. You go backwards. You reference a film that's already made the money. Yeah. You're rolling the dice on a new movie like that. No matter what your internal tracking looks like, that was a stupid decision. And that's to your credit, Marty, like with the PR blunders, because Bob Iger used to be a lot more clean and solid and tight with these PR moves, right? Lately, there have been cracks in that. So you might be onto something with that. Like I've been really bullish on this thing being a land because it was the earnings call, the whole thing. But you're right. I mean, he has made PR mistakes recently.
I mean,
you know,
if we're assuming that this was a leak and it was just like the left hand not talking to right, and we really believe like an Imagineer out of nowhere just said, "Oh, DCA," I think that like there was just a miscommunication. I do think they weren't ready for it to be said, but it did get said. So if we assume that and it's going into DCA, we already know it can't live up to what Iger said because there's no room short of Disney Forward, maybe 10, 15 years from now. If it's going into current DCA, it can't be as good as the one in Florida. It just can't because there's just not enough room. There's not enough room. I mean,
okay. And since we're on the topic, might as well because we got a lot of other people's opinion on it.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting.
So Marty, were you and what you say makes a lot of sense. It really does. So in recent times, Disney made the announcement that they're moving that Imagination campus out of the Blue Sky Cellar over to the animation building down in the Beast's library, which came a day after the announcement. I'm sorry, it came after 2 days after the announcement was leaked that Avatar was going into DCA, and 1 day after of the correction saying that Disney has not officially made that decision. Do you think that was a coincidence, or do you think that is kind of like the little hint that it possibly isn't a land, that it's more so going to be an attraction, that they're kind of moving stuff around? Do you feel like that animation building? Do you feel like the back lot, anything of Hollywood Land, it's kind of like they're maneuvering around that they're going to put Avatar there? Or do you feel like that, as you said, that it got leaked when it wasn't supposed to get leaked? Now they're trying to scramble just to figure out where to put it now, because now, hey, headlines are saying Avatar's coming into DCA. So now, even though that Disney kind of corrected that little mishap, it's still now, we're still talking about it. It's still part of the conversation. So like, what's your whole take on?
So some of my take on this is trying to pay attention to words and things, movement, things that are happening, that things that we can see and things that we can read and things that we hear that they're saying. And we had that article that came out with the Avatar experience, and within 24 hours, Disney had the editor retract that it was coming to Disneyland and instead say Disneyland Resort. And in the article, there were 2 mentions of it being a land, and they changed those to experience. Disney got to the editor and said, fix this. You know, that's not what we're saying. We're saying it this. So they had 2 instances where they were calling it a land, an Avatar land, and that both of those got changed to experience 24 hours later. And the mention of Disneyland got switched to Disneyland Resort. So that made me think, okay, there's a strong possibility this thing is coming to DCA, and maybe it won't be a land. Because I really wanted what you guys wanted.
Right.
I want the boats gone. I want Autopia gone. I want something back there big, right?
Right.
The other thing I think is, I look at and I'm just like, well, this is there's some moves that are going on. They decide to make a Marvel store in a building that's supposed to be an e-ticket exit, and they move all the Marvel stuff from stage 17 into that store 2 months ago or something.
Right.
Okay, so now that area is open. We need to find a place for the Imagineering class. They're not putting it in stage 17. They're putting it in an existing area that guests can use in the Beast library.
Right.
You have an empty building 50 yards away. What is that earmarked for? Because they could just put the class in there. It'd be a whole lot easier for the CMs to access that, or the class, the people to get into that building, than it would be to get over to the animation studio and then walk through the Beast library. Or I don't know if there's probably a back port or something, but it's just interesting to me that they cleared that building out. Then they needed to put something else in a space, and they didn't put it in that space that they just cleared out. They put it in a space that guests already use, and you know, it's pretty loved by the people who know it, like that it's down there and stuff. It's a great air conditioned area. So I don't know. I mean, it's just weird to me.
No, that was a weird decision for sure. Unless they want to do private parties in that building, and that's why they're saving it or something. But I brought that up in a video too, Marty. I mean, I thought that was very strange that they put it in.
I already booked my reservation for that as well.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. No, but I find it very weird. I thought very, very coincidental that they got rid of the Avengers stuff. They moved that out, and they made sure that it had its permanent store over there. You know,
yeah.
It's empty. It was almost like they were emptying it out for something else. So it's interesting, and you're right about the editing of the article with the land and stuff.
It makes me wonder if Disney is kind of being very careful with how things are worded, just in case if down the road that if they want to change some things, not in the article, but like in their decision making, because of the backlash that they got with the Magic Key lawsuit. You know, so now they have to kind of be careful with their wording when it goes onto paper. You know, so that way it doesn't come back and bite them in the ass.
Well, we talked about the other day, George, on one of these videos. I think it was with Tones and Candy Camper, where it might also be a move to keep it from the city, because right now Disneyland Forward will probably. I mean, you're dealing with politicians and stuff, so you never know. Will probably get approved. I think they said early in 2024, so like spring of 2024 is what I think the vote will be. Well, if they announce Pandora or some big Avatar land or something, it might spook the city a little bit. Like, well, where are you putting that, Disney? You're putting these big floating mountains, and we're going to see that from the convention center. What's this and that? So it might be a situation like that where it's like, okay, you know what? We got to hide the fact of what we're doing, just kind of keep it close to the chest a little bit, get the thing approved, then we'll go all in. Because Disney's had issues with this before. When they tried to do Westcott, the city fought them tooth and nail with the big spaceship Earth and the whole thing. And that's just a theory. Who knows? I mean, that might not be the issue at all. It could just be something they're going to throw into one of those buildings in DCA. I tell you what, though, if they do something like that, oh man, Bob Iger dropped the ball. That's PR malpractice. The way he's hyping this thing up, announcing at the earnings calls, and he's teasing this thing like crazy, and then to go out and it's some walkthrough exhibit where it's almost like there's like little plaques like this is the Na'vi and this is the species of plant.
But
and this
if they're gonna do that, then just put it in Disneyland. Then at least there would be some relevance. You could stick it in Tomorrowland if you're just gonna have like a walkthrough. Put it in the old what's the building that they
Launch
have
Bay.
The Launch Bay. Put it in there or something. Like, what made that? If that would be the case, why would they choose DCA that has absolutely no relevance to Avatar whatsoever, just to have a walkthrough?
Well, if they do the walkthrough and they put it in Hollywoodland, it would make a little bit of sense.
Yeah,
because then it's like the magic of Hollywood, and they can do that whole angle sort of.
I even wonder.
I'm just trying to convince myself, OG, that whole entire idea is completely fucked up.
I know. Go ahead, Marty.
Like, I even wonder, like for the Imagineering class, ESPN is sitting there empty.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, that would be real easy access for the Imagineers to get in there, to access that. You park over there at Simba or the CM parking lot. I mean, there's a lot of places where they did the Marvel meet and greet behind the Hollywood Lounge area. Isn't that building empty? Like, that's a building that's actually empty.
Right.
I mean, it may be storage or something, but there's just a lot of
Disney has to have something up their sleeve. I don't know what it is, but they're like maneuvering these kind of like weird decisions that's having all these empty buildings. And
so 2 months from now, it will be the 1 year date. Did we get an update before in the next 60 days from when he hyped it? I mean, if he goes longer than a year.
I mean, if they're gonna wait until D23, that's too long. You've been hyping it for way too long to wait till D. I mean, you have to at least maybe not give us specifics, but
give us a template. That's it. Just a template,
or even just give us a part. Give us something like right. Even with this, I was like, well, if it's going to DCA, it doesn't make as much sense, but at least we know something. And then 24 hours later, they're like, oh, we don't have an official comment. I'm like, we're back to this.
We're back to this. And I agree with you, Marty. Absolutely. It's going in DCA. The person who actually said it at IAAPA was Imagineer Chris Beatty. Okay, this guy knows where it's going. Okay.
Right.
This is not rumor. He knows. What happened was he said it before Disney wanted him to say it. Right. So they backpedaled. But now they're in a pickle. Because what's going to happen now if it really goes into DCA? Now Disney's going to look like they lied.
They really should have just not even came out the statement and just let it roll. Because now they're hyping it up. Like, now they're putting more ideas in people's head that, oh, it's not going to DCA. So now if it really does go to DCA, it's like, you should have just let that one roll and been like, all right, it was more than we wanted or earlier than we wanted, but it's out there, man. Don't take it back and then.
Or if the whole purpose was to save it for D23, Iger shouldn't have even said it from the get-go, even at the quarterly earnings call or the shareholders meeting, whatever one he had mentioned it. Because if you're going to say it at that specific time, and you're already anticipating on D23 to be in 2024, at the time they didn't have the date set, but it's for August. But it's like, if you're going to say something, don't stretch it out this long.
Yeah.
Like, I don't... Right.
Yeah, and we're not asking for like we need every nitty gritty. We need like blueprints to the attraction, the whole thing. All we want is park and what we're getting. So just it's going to DCA, it's a land, or Disneyland, it's a land, or this and it's an experience. That's all we want. That's all we want. Just really vague, and then that will hold us over till D23. I think that's good. but we're getting nothing. I mean, it's crazy. And remember the earnings call that Bob Iger stated that this Pandora experience was coming was the first earnings call he had back as CEO again.
Yeah.
So there might have been a little pressure to let's make moves. Let's get that stock price out. Let's make moves. So he announced it before they really had anything, and so they're really just kind of figuring it out since then. I don't know.
Yep.
It's wild, man. It's absolutely wild. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out, dude. I tell you what, though, Daddy Josh, if he gives us a walkthrough experience, some cheap little launch base style thing, I think I'm done. I think I'm done with Daddy Josh.
I mean, in this rate, by the time we actually get this experience, the rest of the James Cameron sequels will be completed.
Right. It's like waiting for that who's the Dragons guy, or the guy who writes the books. I forget the show, the HBO show, Game of Thrones. It's like everybody waiting on that last book. Like I never read the books, but I'm like, that guy's gonna die before it comes out, man.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. We'll see. We'll stay tuned. We're on top of it. If anything happens with that, we'll definitely be reporting on it. But yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff come out with that story. Now, this is pretty cool. This is actually from Disneyland Paris. They're doing a new nighttime spectacular, which is basically a drone show, which I would love them to bring this to the States, which is basically kind of being billed as almost like a Main Street electrical parade in the sky. And you can see here, like with the photos.
That's so wild.
I mean, it's just pretty cool. Like, I'm pretty impressed by this. George, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I have to say, when it comes to nighttime shows, especially now using this newer technology with the droning system, Disneyland Paris does it best. They know how to use that technology very well. On top of, like, their castle is already a banger, with the way that they have the mountains and the hills surrounding the castle and what have you, kind of mixing that all with the projection mapping and the music, and now with these drones and everything. Disneyland Paris has kind of come a long way from how it started in the Michael Eisner era. That I would definitely love to see them bring these to the domestic parks. I mean, they say, we want something new, we want something different. They're going to be investing in $60 billion. I mean, put this into that list. Like, that would be phenomenal. You have it somewhere at Walt Disney World, somewhere at Disneyland. I don't care how you do it, but do something. And to say it can't be done, I mean, Universal Hollywood already has that droning system with Harry Potter, the nighttime show Harry Potter. So
that's a good point.
I would love to see it come to the domestic parks.
Yeah. Oh, me too. 100%.
It looks beautiful. It looks awesome.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. It brings another element to nighttime entertainment. We have fireworks. We have water shows. The drone thing is a whole nother animal, which I think is super interesting. You can see here, I think this is a computer generated visual, but I mean, if it looks anything like that in person, it's going to blow minds. But what are your thoughts on this, Marty?
I mean, yeah, these drone shows look awesome. Like, you see them all over the place, like in different celebrations, and every single one, like, just looks like badass, man. I mean, I remember the Super Bowl in LA a couple of years ago. They had it out there. I will say that something that's interesting, that I spoke with an Imagineer a couple of years ago about this, and so as George said, Universal is doing this in Hollywood. They've had the drone show. Disney is doing this in California because they just did it, I believe, at the El Capitan for the Wish.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing it in Disneyland because after 9/11, Disneyland requested and was granted a no-fly zone. They would have to waive their no-fly zone in order to have drone shows. Not to say that they wouldn't, but then you open yourself to helicopters flying over the park, all kinds of other things. They really do enjoy having that no-fly zone. And so I think internally, since they're doing it already, like I said, they did it for Wish just a couple days ago, right? I saw some stuff over there at the El Capitan.
Yeah.
So they have it. They can do it. They're using a company to do it. They would have to sit there and weigh their options on whether or not they want, helicopters, tour helicopters flying over their park. I don't think they were ever really truly worried about a terrorist flying a plane into the park. So they took the opportunity of 9/11 to ask for this request and were granted it. So it's something that they wanted. But I mean, times change, technology changes. It might be worth it. I mean, the fireworks at Disneyland have got to be the most problematic thing that the City Hall has to deal with in Disneyland. Every single time, like there's a 10-mile-an-hour wind and the fireworks get canceled. There's a line of 100 people bitching at Disney, at CM's, like they're the ones that blew the air. And caused to get canceled by the fire department.
It's crazy, and a lot of
too.
Oh, it's massive, millions of dollars a night. I mean, they do it, and a lot of people don't realize too when they make that announcement. Because I've been in the audience before when they cancel, and then you hear the audience where they're. I mean, you hear the announcement where they say, due to winds at high elevations, and that's the key right there, high elevation. So a lot of people, like families around me, would say like it's not even that windy, and it's like, but it is up there. It's windier, and that's where it matters because that's where they're shooting them. And you're right, Marty. It's like it's not Disney's not out there blowing the winds. They can't control it, and they're just trying to keep the parks and and people in those parks safe, and even neighboring businesses and houses safe. I mean, if they do a fireworks show in the wrong conditions and one of those fireworks lands in a residential area, I mean, that's it's bad news. I mean, it's really bad news. So I get it.
Have you seen the photos of the people like to say like it's like Nope or an alien, the donut circle smoke that goes up from World of Color?
Yeah,
it's a smoke bomb and it creates this donut circle.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that they use that as a marker indicator to find out how much wind is going on up there. They watch that. They run that show like 30 minutes before the fireworks or 40 minutes before the fireworks. That thing goes up there and they track how far it moves while it's up there.
That's crazy. Wow. The first time I noticed that was actually recently when I was watching Wondrous Journeys. And because when I go to the parks, I usually don't stay at like later in the evening. I'm like a morning person. I get there like rope drop and I'll leave by like 4:00. That's just how I do the parks. But with Wondrous Journeys, I made it a point to stay later to watch that because I love that show. But I'm on Main Street. I look back and I see this black ring. I'm like, are we being invaded by aliens right now? What the hell is that?
I remember seeing, because I've seen it then as well when I was standing on Main Street waiting for Wondrous Journeys.
Yeah, it's interesting. But
really, really quick, OG, before we move on to the topic, because we were talking about how Disney kind of notions the fact that this drone show is like the electrical parade in the sky and what have you.
Right.
And if we could just dip into this a little bit,
sure.
I would love to know because, and I know that the electrical parade is near and dear to your heart, OG. For your growing up and everything with your childhood memories. When are they ever, whether it's the electrical parade or not, when is Disney, because this is now going on both coasts, there's no nighttime parades going on at either coast. Like I remember when there was a time where if there was one at Walt Disney World, there wasn't one at Disneyland and vice versa. But now it's like for a long period of time, it's like stalemate where there's no nighttime parades on either coast, and that was always something that tied into the fireworks. You would watch the parade and then kind of take your place on Main Street ready for the fireworks, and that was the kiss goodnight, so to speak. Right. And it's like I'm wondering, like, is there a nighttime parade coming back sometime?
There are kind of hints of it. Number one, it was our friend Dave from Fresh Baked. I think it was Dave actually on Twitter. He got, I think somebody sent him a picture of the Paint the Night floats backstage at Disney.
Yeah.
So they're actually on property, those Paint the Night floats still. And then also, I believe it was recently they reported, I think it was WDWNT reported that Disneyland is shooting for the 70th anniversary to bring that parade back. Now, again, a lot could happen, you know what I'm saying? But that's kind of the murmurs that's kind of happening right now. we'll see. Disneyland has a better track record with these nighttime parades, though, more or less than Florida. For some reason, Walt Disney World management, I don't know what's going on. They will not move on that. I don't know what. I mean, and park fans over there are so hungry for that. I mean, Florida.
Yeah, we had Spectro Magic. That was the jam. At the end of every Magic Kingdom day, Spectro Magic was the thing to go to right before. At the time, it was the fireworks show Wishes.
Right.
But as far as Paint the Night, I may be in the minority on this. I actually got to see Paint the Night at both Disneyland and DCA. I feel like Paint the Night works so much better at DCA. It just fits well with the music, the soundtrack, the type of floats. There's a lot of heavy Pixar IP in there that kind of fits well into DCA. And I would just love to see the classic electrical Main Street Electrical Parade just back at Disneyland.
Well, I would love them to go. I mean, yeah, I love the Main Street Electrical Parade. My late grandmother was a huge fan of that, so it holds a special place in my heart. I love that parade, but I would be open to them sort of modernizing the lights, and they have a little bit here and there through the years, but I mean, I would go full bore like Tokyo Disney style with these lights on the Main Street Electrical Parade. I think that would be absolutely gorgeous. But what are your thoughts on that, Marty? What do you think? I mean, are we going to get any nighttime parades either coast anytime soon?
First of all, I absolutely love Paint the Night. I think it's fantastic. My son is a huge Cars fan, so seeing that come down, it's just awesome. Which is also kind of funny too, because I've heard the reason why they shut it down is because of CM injuries. And I think, I've heard one of the problems were the suits that they use for the Cars float, they light up, with the, that the cast members wear while they're dancing around and stuff like that during the Cars part, that the suit was burning some CMs or something like that. I mean, I was like, well, just get rid of that. We don't need it. We just want Mac coming down.
Exactly. But and Marty, you have Marty, you're absolutely right on the injuries. I have a friend who's in the workers' comp industry, and he was telling me that a lot of the claims were connected. He was getting a lot of Disneyland claims, and a lot were connected to that parade. I
also think because it's been so many years since Paint the Night was the last real parade kind of we had, I think, really at DCA. That was a massive parade. Think about it. Since then, when do we not have a food festival going at DCA? They can't run a parade if they've got the food booths there. So they have to pick a time that there's no food booths. And we got Festival of Holidays. We have Food and Wine. There's another. There's Lunar New Year. We have all these. There's never more than 30 days. I feel we don't have a food booth going down the center.
True. And thus, this is why I'm gonna jump on the OG bandwagon here. Thus, Westcott.
Right. Well, that I know. I've been banging that drum for a long time. My pipe dream that'll never happen. But if you build Westcott, a World Showcase park, you have your festivals there. Then you can have your parade at DCA. It'd be perfect. Disney's never going to do that though.
But that is true. So because they have the parade that goes through with Oogie Boogie Bash and everything.
Oh,
so you guys don't have nothing goes on during the fall and Halloween season, correct?
Well, we just have Halloween. We couldn't have a night parade. Well, I guess we could, but we have Oogie Boogie going,
right? Because they have the nighttime parade for Oogie Boogie that goes through. So you guys don't have nothing that needs to be moved or anything during that time.
Yeah, no, they don't run the food booths during the Halloween season, so it's pretty wide open.
Yeah, and that event was really fun actually. It was funny because with Boogie Bash, and we're kind of going off topic again, but who cares? It's funny with Boogie Bash, I always thought it looked cool. From the the pictures and videos I've seen or whatever, but actually experiencing it in person, I was like, this event, I finally understand the hype now of Boogie Bash. I was really impressed.
It was pretty wild. I've been to all of them from the very first one, and the very first one in 2019. They did something. I'm glad they went away from it. They had created a Halloween World of Color, and so what they did was they ran the parade first, and then 2 hours later they ran World of Color, the Halloween World of Color, and that was the Kiss Goodnight, right? The problem with that is you had people trying to you want to do both, you want to experience both. So now you have every single person in Oogie Boogie on the parade route for the parade, and there's no space. Like there's people that can't, and like so I was sitting, me and my wife, we were sitting next to a trash can, and we were there for 25 minutes when a CM came over and said, "Oh, you have to move, you can't do this." I'm like, well, there's no spots anymore, right? I've been sitting here for 25 minutes. You could have told me that. Now you got me going up in the front, and now we started walking up and down, and the whole park was already on the parade route, so there was no place to go.
Wow.
So and then you have everybody in the park trying to do World of Color later, and see the Halloween World of Color show. So what they did is then we had the pandemic, and then when they came back, they said, we're not doing the World of Color. We're just going to run 2 parades, which is way better because now you got half the people at the first one and half the people at the second one. You can, everyone has a good spot. No one's really seeing the parade twice. So that was a way better solution. My strategy is usually hit Villains Grove during the first parade because it's not as many people out there. And then we do the last parade, before we take off.
And I do have to say, I have to kind of commend Disney on, when they really do notice like something that isn't working, that they do kind of fix it for the next time around. Because a lot of people, right now are kind of complaining about the Jollywood Nights over at Hollywood Studios. So now they're even tweaking on adding more characters to it. They added a Holiday Duffy, Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket, Stitch, and everything to kind of add more into for the event, which again, people are going to bitch, moan, and complain about this year. But then next year, Disney will already have kind of like their notes and everything where they can tweak it just like how they did with Oogie Boogie Bash. So I do commend Disney on that when they really notice that something isn't working, that'll be detrimental for them to use as like for events for them to, get that cash. It's like we got to fix this and fix it quick.
I think people are at their core. I think people are forgiving if they witness the company trying. Like I think if they
putting forth
Disney,
the effort.
Yeah, if Disney makes good, I mean, an honest effort to like, okay, this didn't work, we'll tweak it, we'll change it. I think people, for the most part, reasonable people, I think will be cool with that. But man, that first Jollywood Nights, that was rough.
Yeah,
that was rough. The reviews coming out of that thing were not good. But now this past weekend, I heard it was a lot better, so that's good. We're moving in the right direction. But it's kind of a shame though for the people that spent the money on the first night, though. Unfortunately, So
that's why I always give that suggestion. Like if you're going to do a brand new hard ticket event, I know you always like to say you like to be the first one at the very first event. If you're going to do that, your expectations can't be as high as what you think it is because there's always going to be bumps and glitches because it's going to be the first of its kind.
That's the problem with being first. But we live in a first culture right now with TikTok and Instagram where people want to be first. So it's like that dilemma, right? Like, what do you do? So, but now this next story is actually very interesting. This is actually something that Disney's been doing ever since they premiered World of Color in 2010. They've kind of done these like little tags or whatever. I think this is a tag, if I'm not mistaken. But they're going to add Wish to World of Color Season of Light over at DCA. Makes sense. They did this with multiple movies they were trying to promote in the past. I think Brave, they did it with Brave one year. They did it with Tron and just a countless array of movies. Now it's Wish. I mean, it's cute. Look, Wish is one of those movies where I think it resonates. I said the same thing with the Epcot show they're doing. Or George, as I said the other day, the Epcot thing. The thing, right? The thing. But I think Wish as an IP really works in these nighttime shows because it's like it's a movie based on like wishing upon a star. It's kind of it's more of a nighttime kind of movie just off of that alone. I think it'll really translate well into these kind of shows. So we'll see. We'll see how this kind of works. The movie, we talked about a pre-show a little bit, seems to be getting pretty good word of mouth. People seem to be coming back and enjoying it. But I don't know. Well, Marty, what are your thoughts? Wish, kind of getting a little bit of a tag over here at World of Color.
Well, this goes back to my point earlier in the show. I want to see this 100%. Advertise your movies. Elemental was great. It was a fun little movie, but like they didn't even have anything in the park for Elemental. This is great. I mean, even though it's it's your clientele that's already in the park. It's already a Disney fan base that's in the park and stuff. But still, advertise your movie. Believe in your film. I mean, look at. I think I was talking with you on X the other day. Look at the complete failed job Encanto was. Like now, Chapek was all on board. Like, oh no, now I love Encanto. We want to have Encanto all because of what it did after it hit Disney Plus. But you didn't believe in the film. They nominated a song and it wasn't Bruno for the Oscars. I'm like, do your research. Like, you had the -- song in the world and you didn't nominate it for an Academy Award. So I love seeing this stuff. Advertise it, get it out there. The movie's getting great reviews from people who've have early screenings of it. Look, it may not have like Mario legs or something, but this movie is going to make money for the first time in a while. It's going to be a win for Disney. Little girls are going to love the idea of this princess movie again. This style that they're bringing back. The animation looks great. I'm looking forward to it, and I enjoy this company promoting it and backing it and adding it to things.
And that would be a first time in a long time as well, that for the success that this film that I feel like is going to make, it's actually an original film. It's not going to be set off of the backhand of it being a sequel or a prequel of anything that was already a success like Frozen or Toy Story. This is something brand spanking new.
Yeah, it is. And this is actually kind of the perfect kind of move because it can kind of enjoy both, though. And what I mean by that is, like, you're right. It's a brand new IP, brand new character, brand new everything, right? But then it's also part of, just by default, with her being a princess, part of that Disney princess kind of brand, right? So to speak, the overall Disney princess brand. And that overall Disney princess brand is $1 billion industry. So it's like it can kind of piggyback on the Disney princess, kind of like that familiarity element because it's another princess, but it's also its own new thing, its own new story, its own new character. So it enjoys a little bit of both. So yeah, I agree with you, fellas. I think this movie's gonna do well. I really, really do. I think Disney seems to think so as well because you can see how much they're promoting it. This obviously they have faith in this. When you contrast this to how Marty was saying how they were promoting Elemental. Which is an absolute sin, by the way. Like, I absolutely fell in love with Elemental. I watched it recently to do a Story Geeks episode with Jay Shear on the channel, and I watched it, and I'm sitting here going, like, this movie is fantastic. This is
fun movie.
Oh, it's so fun, really heartful, charming. I'm like, why didn't people watch this?
And I agree with Marty. I think Elemental and Encanto both got the short end of the stick because I feel like they're both very strong films story wise. They have great characters, great great music, and I feel like that they would have done much better out of the gate if Disney would have just promoted and marketed them much better, like how they are with Wish.
And Encanto was a double-edged sword too, because like I said, you had the #1 song in the nation, and you weren't backing up your promotion on that, but it's a double-edged sword in that not only did they not promote it to do well in the theater, but then they put it on Disney Plus, and I think that's the start of when people started saying, well, I'm not going to go to the theater to watch a Disney movie. I'll just watch it on Disney Plus because they're going to throw it right on there. So like that was the movie that they put on there that all of a sudden did really well on Disney Plus, and people would just start, and they're trying to climb out of that now, right? But I think that's the movie that started it, really,
And Pete Docter said that as much. Pete Docter came out and said he thinks that kind of it's an element here of that where people just sort of they got kind of like used to this idea of it just going on Disney Plus.
Well, now Encanto has something in familiar with Snow White. It's the one that started it all for two different reasons.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, very interesting stuff. A crazy time right now for Disney, like both in parks, both studio. It's just it's wild. But Marty, it's always an honor and pleasure having you on, our friend. We love having you on. Thank you so much for coming on and talking shop with us.
Thank you, man. Hey, it's always a pleasure. Always have such a good time. The shows recently have been fantastic, man. The one that you did the other day with Jack was just off the walls. Like it was so full of I was just like glued to the screen with like the questions being asked and what he was talking about. I was just like, this is fantastic. But you guys are doing great stuff, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marty. Yeah, that was a really fun episode with DSNY, Jack, because it was like, Jack does a lot of like kind of video essay style content, fantastic content creator, and it was kind of cool to sit down with him kind of like in this conversational kind of setting, and just kind of, it was a different kind of thing that I think a lot of people would find interesting, because you don't see that from him very, very much. So it was cool. It was cool to pick his brain.
It was absolutely hooked. It was like edge of your seat, like questions and answers, man. I was just like loving it.
Well, thank you, Marty. We
should reach out to Disney. Maybe they'll release it on Disney Plus. Get some banger numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do it. Come on, Disney. Put on Disney Plus. No, but Marty, if you can remind everybody where they can find you on social media.
The artist formerly known as Twitter, X. You'll find me there at Marty084.
There he is, and it'll be in the description. So I'll make it easy for you. Just go ahead and click on that down below and follow Mr. Marty Snyder. And over here, we got the Italiano, host of Citrus Corner here on the channel. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can now also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There it is. There it is. Everybody comment down below with your thoughts on everything we discussed today. Wish, World of Color, the drone shows over there in Paris, the Dragon coming back, to Fantasmic out here in Disneyland. We would love to hear from you. Post below your comments. Thank you so much for watching this episode of OG55. Bye-bye, everybody.